when the road gets dark and you can no longer see, just let my love throw a spark. Have a little faith in me. And when the tears you cry, oh, you can't believe, just give these loving arms a try. Have a little faith in me. 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 When your secret heart cannot speak so easily, well, come here, darling, from a whisper start to have a little faith in me. When your back's against the wall, just turn around and you will see. I will catch your fall. Just have a little faith in me. 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 Have a little faith. Have a little faith in me. Have a little faith. Have a little faith in me.
Good people, and welcome to Pajama Church. Welcome to the virtual worship of the First Church in Sterling, where we are still gathered remotely in the Spirit of Jesus, committed to creating heaven on earth. We are practicing physical distancing and social revolution during this time of darkness. We are bringing the light. We are starting and spreading a pandemic of love. Welcome to all who need a church home and to all who call this church home already. Welcome to people from all towns and cities and states and countries. Welcome to all who want to follow Christ, who have doubts, who do not believe. Welcome to people of all ages, races, nationalities, abilities, sexualities, and gender expressions. Welcome to single, to partnered, and to married people. Welcome to believers. Welcome to questioners. Welcome to questioning believers. Welcome to everyone. We welcome you to come as you are and to meet this God who challenges us to be more than we think we can be. We welcome you if you are not perfect, because certainly neither are we. And we know that the church at times has rejected difference and denied God's promise for itself and for others, which is why we say without reservation that you are welcome here just as God welcomes you as a beloved child. We are especially delighted to welcome you if you are visiting with us for the online for the first time. Please be sure to say who you are and where you are from, or where you are watching us from, in the comment section right now so that we can welcome you properly. If you are interested in learning more about our church and what we are doing in the midst of quarantine to make earth more like it is in heaven, please go to our website at www.fcsterling.org and sign up for our email mailing list so that you can hear from us weekly. Like our Facebook page if you haven't already, and join one of our Facebook groups, most notably our First Church in Sterling, Massachusetts Facebook group, because that is where a lot of things happen. People talk to each other, people ask for prayer requests, and announcements are made. So that's a really important group to join if you haven't already. I have a couple of announcements this week. First, I want you to know that confirmation class is meeting on Zoom today at 11:30, almost immediately after this worship service. Coffee hour is at 12:30 on Zoom today, so you have a little break to make your lunch before joining us for coffee hour, and all of that information is on our Facebook page. We have coffee with the pastor every Wednesday at 9:15 a.m. on Zoom, so if you would like to check in with your fellow friends from First Church and your pastor, please join us. It's a wonderful opportunity to just ask each other how it is with our spirit. I want you to know that First Church in Sterling is participating in the Front Porch Project right now. Our wonderful photographer, Linda Davis, is going to your home, and she is taking pictures of you and the people you are quarantining with on your front porch at appropriate physical distance away from you. She's taking beautiful photos of your family or you on your porch. And if she's doing this to benefit our First Church in Sterling Deacons Fund, which is money that we collect that goes directly to people in need in the community. So it is for an excellent cause. She's accepting sliding scale donations. Is that right, Linda? You don't have like a specific, okay. So it's a sliding scale donation, whatever you want to give. And if you would like to participate, Linda needs you to email her with your name, your address, your cell phone number, and some good times when she could come visit you. It's a really, really wonderful experience. If you check out our Facebook page, you can see some of the pictures she has taken so far, and they are hilarious and beautiful all at the same time, just like First Church in Sterling. So please, please, please participate in that. Let's see. Submissions for the Viral Love blog. So our friend Kate Sheridan, who's back this morning. Hello, hooray! Kate is starting a viral love blog for us here at First Church, and she's asking for submissions from all of you of all ages. Like, please submit your children's stuff as well as your own. She's accepting pictures, artwork, stories, reflections from people of all ages of how we are getting through this time to lift each other up and document us creating heaven on earth on the internet. So we hope that you will submit all of that to Kate. Kate's email address is Kate's email address is fcsterlingeducation@gmail.com. Got it? So fcsterlingeducation@gmail.com. Send your submissions to our Viral Love blog there. You could even send music videos of you singing or doing TikTok dances, which is all my kids do all day. So I know you have those videos. I think that's, just in general, all of our virtual offerings are found in one document, a Google Doc that is at the beginning of the First Church in Sterling, Massachusetts group. It is pinned to the top of that group, and you can find, that changes a lot, but you can find all of the things that we're doing online there, because there are a lot of things that I didn't mention. But please go to that doc early and often. It changes, and that's why it's beautiful that it's a Google Doc. But please check that often, especially if you're feeling lonely, because we have lots of opportunities to come together. And now we deepen into worship by saying together our affirmation of faith, which is printed in your online bulletin. In the love of truth and the Spirit of Jesus, we unite for the worship of God and the service of humankind.
We need your presence on the long road, Lord, the road between fear and hope, the road between the place where all is lost and the place of resurrection. Like the disciples walking the road to Emmaus, we are in need of your company. Jesus, stand among us in your risen power. Let this time of worship be a hallowed hour.
To you
bring all peoples together. Fire of love in our flesh and our bone.
Please won't you pray with me? You break in, O God, on the road you break in, O God. Exactly the way we don't believe you break in, O God, and change everything. You break in, O God, with a call. You break in, O God, with an invitation. You break in, O God, with the truth. You break in, O God, with a new realm. You break in, O God, with a new world. You break in, O God, with your intent for the future. God, break in again and call us to be your workers. God, break in again and help us use our gifts to build your realm. God, break in again and change our world once more. This we pray as Jesus taught us to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. And now, beloved, may the peace of God be always with you.
And also with you.
Thank you. Please turn and greet one another in the comments section with signs of Christ's peace.
Good morning. Good morning, young and young at heart. It is great to be back with you here online. I hope that you are all doing well. I hope that you're being patient with your parents. Parents, I know you're being very patient. Something that has made my heart both happy and sad in this time is seeing how we've handled milestones and holidays. Easter came and we couldn't be here in church together. I've seen so many birthdays come, but people have had such great attitudes and they've gotten car parades and visits from friends socially distanced. And as we come up and we continue going into this time, there are other milestones that people may very well miss out on to keep us safe. We may miss out on proms and graduations. We may miss out on trips. And there may be more birthday parades. So I thought, even though it might seem like a silly time to read a story about Christmas, that we could talk about Christmas in spring. And I would love for you to see if you can think of anything that this reminds you of, or any connection to life right now. And it's very important that I put on my very serious storytelling hat to be a proper part of this story, which is how the Grinch stole Christmas. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot, but the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be perhaps that his shoes were too tight. But I think the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve hating the Whos, so staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown as the warm-lighted windows below in their town, for he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now hanging a mistletoe wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas, it's practically here. Then he growled, with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming, I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming. Does that remind you of anybody? Anybody named Corona? For tomorrow, he knew, all the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early. They'd rush for their toys, and oh, then the noise. The noise, 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 noise. That's the thing he hated, the noise, 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 noise. Then the Who's, young and old, would sit down to a feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, 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 feast. They would feast on Who pudding and rare Who roast beast, which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. And then they'd do something he liked least of all, but we like best of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand, and the Who's would start singing. They'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd sing, 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 sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I've put up with it now. I must stop this Christmas from coming, but how? And then he got an idea, an awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do, the Grinch laughed in his throat, and he made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. Then he chuckled and clucked, what a great Grinchy trick. With this coat and this hat, I look just like Saint Nick. All I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around, but since reindeer are scarce, there was none to be found. Did that stop the old Grinch? No, the Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. This is where I would have a baby llama, if it was so possible. He called his dog Max. Then he took some red thread and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch said, get up, and the sleigh started down towards the homes where the Who's lay a snooze in their town. All the windows were dark, quiet snow filled the air. All the Who's were all dreaming sweet dreams without care. When he came to the first little house on the square, this is stop number 1, the old Grinchy Claus hissed, and he climbed to the roof, empty bag in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather slight tight pinch, but if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once for a moment or two, then he stuck out his head at the fireplace flue, where the little Who stockings all hung in a row. These stockings, he grinned, are the first things to go. Then he snuck to the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beast. He cleaned out that icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch even took their last can of Who hash. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee, and now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. And the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove when he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove. And he looked around and he saw a small Who, like little Cindy Lou Who was no more than 2. The Grinch had been caught by this tiny Who daughter who got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and said, Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why? But you know that old Grinch was so smart and so slick. He thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. Why, my sweet little tot, the fake Santa Claus lied. There's a light on this tree that won't light on one side, so I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, and I'll bring it back here. Then the last thing he took was the log for their fire, and he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. Oh, the walls were left nothing but hooks and some wire, and then the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. Then he did something to the Who's houses, the same thing to all the Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for other Who's mouses. It was 1:15 dawn, all the Who's still in bed, all the Who's still a snooze when he packed up his sled, packed it up with their presents, the ribbons, the wrappings, the tags, the tinsel, the trimmings, the trappings. The 1,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. Pooh-pooh to the Who's, he was grinchiously humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two. Then the Who's down in Whoville will all cry boo-hoo. And it would be fair if they did. But that's a noise, grinned the Grinch. I simply must hear. And he paused, and the Grinch put his hand to his ear. And he heard a sound rising over the snow. It started out low, and it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, the sound sounded merry. But it couldn't be. It was merry, very. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, they were singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled hours till his puzzler was sore, till the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Perhaps Christmas, maybe Christmas, means a little bit more. We all know the end of the story, which is that the Grinch brings Christmas back to Whoville, and he carves the roast beast himself. But I'd love for you to think about that special message, that without ribbons or boxes or bags, or maybe all your friends at your birthday party, all of these special moments are still happening, and they still deserve to be celebrated. I hope that you are well, and I can't wait to see you soon.
Our reading this morning is a reading from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 24, verses 13 through 35. Now on that same day, two of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and talking with each other about all these things that had happened. While they were talking and discussing, Jesus himself came near and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him. And he said to them, "What are you discussing with each other while you walk along?" They stood still, looking sad. Then one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answered him, "Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who does not know the things that have taken place there in these days?" He asked them, "What things?" They replied, "The things about Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet mighty in deed and word before God and all of the people, and how our chief priests and leaders handed him over to be condemned to death and crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. Yes, and besides all this, it is now the 3rd day since these things took place. Moreover, some women of our group astounded us. They were at the tomb early this morning, and when they did not find his body there, they came back and told us that they had indeed seen a vision of angels who said that he was alive. Some of those who were with us went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said, but they did not see him." Then he said to them, "Oh, how foolish you are, and how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have declared. Was it not necessary that the Messiah should suffer these things and then enter into his glory?" Then, beginning with Moses and all of the prophets, he interpreted to them the things about himself in all of the scriptures. As they came near the village to which they were going, he walked ahead as if he were going on. But they urged him strongly, saying, "Stay with us, because it's almost evening and the day is now nearly over." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, blessed and broke it, and gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. They said to each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he was talking to us on the road, when he was opening the scriptures for us?" That same hour they got up and returned to Jerusalem, and they found the 11 and their companions gathered together. They were saying, "The Lord has risen indeed, and he has appeared to Simon." Then they told what had happened on the road and how he had made himself known to them in the breaking of the bread. Let the church hear what the Spirit is saying. God is still speaking.
I was born by the river in a little tent. Oh, and just like the river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die, 'cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. Then I go to my brother. I say, "Brother, help me please." But he winds up knocking me back down on my knees. Oh, there have been times where I thought I couldn't last for long, but now I think I'm able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die. I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. It's been a long time coming, but a change is gonna come. It's been a long time coming, but a change is gonna Please, won't you pray with me? May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts together find their way into the heart of God this morning. Amen. In the past 6 weeks alone, we have collectively learned with new, shocking, life upending, hard-won wisdom what it means to have our hopes dashed. And we are not alone. We travel that road together. Joel and I were talking this week about worship, and he asked me the significance of the road to Emmaus and the scripture. And I illustrated it this way, in a way that he might understand, because long before I came to First Church in Sterling, Joel and I both worked at a church in Milton, Massachusetts. Milton is a rather wealthy suburb, Boston suburb, where many middle to upper class folks are one divorce away from being house poor. Mark, my intern Mark Roble used to live there too. We're all like, re-showing up in Sterling, but we were all once in Milton. But anyway, there was a street in Milton that many of the kids went to live on part-time after their parents were newly divorced. Joel knew exactly the street that I was referring to because it was well known by all in the community, and like many suburban open secrets, it was not talked about out loud. The newly divorced or separated were essentially limited to this one street in Milton because there were very few rentals or apartments where a newly single parent could live and still be in the same school district as their children, We knew of several parents that went to live there from the congregation back then, all sort of lined up in a row. And one day, about 10 years ago now, I was driving several teenagers home from a youth conference that we had gone to somewhere out in suburban Boston, and one of the kids' parents had gotten a divorce that year, though he didn't talk about it much, and neither did we. I asked him to remind me what street he lived on so that I could drive him back home, and he responded in that sarcastic and hilarious adolescent way. "Did you forget, Robin? I live on the Boulevard of Broken Dreams," he said. And we cracked up laughing the way one laughs with relief at the absurdity of despair. We all knew immediately what street he was referring to. A poet once called cynicism that other sadness. Like so many teenagers I know, he really had it down. The disciples on the road to Emmaus were walking along that same boulevard of broken dreams, the street of dashed hopes. The disciples on the road to Emmaus knew what it meant to walk the path they had hoped not to walk, to a destination unknown and unplanned for. As they walked the Emmaus road, the disciples reflected on the death of the prophet that they had been so sure was the person they had been waiting for, their salvation. They walked along the road thinking that it was over. The chief priests and our rulers handed him over to be sentenced to death, and they crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one who was going to redeem Israel, they said as they walked. But we had hoped. The saddest words perhaps ever uttered in the Christian scriptures. We had hoped. Past tense, we had hoped. Biblical scholars say that no one really knows much about the significance of the place of Emmaus. Not much is written about it. We don't know why two of Jesus' friends were walking there about 7 miles from Jerusalem. It's kind of a road to nowhere special. We know that they walked that road in the midst of their grief, sort of aimless, perhaps with not much of a destination in mind at all. They believed their prophet Jesus' story to be abruptly over almost as soon as it began. So you can imagine the profound heart-heavy disappointment they felt as they walked that road, the kind you feel when a death destroys everything, the kind of loss you feel when life as you imagined it would surely not be what you had planned, the had-hoped road. If you are like most of the humans all over the world right now, you are walking the boulevard of broken dreams, the had-hoped road. Because many of your hopes, I know right now, are in past tense. You had hoped that 2020 was your year. You had hoped school would open back up. You had hoped to graduate or watch your senior graduate. You had hoped to have a sleepover for your 10th birthday party instead of a car parade. You had hoped to go on vacation to Disney World this spring for the first time. You had hoped to expand your small business. You had hoped to pay your employees. You had hoped to get paid. You had hoped to be able to put food on the table for your family without having to go to the food bank or the unemployment line. You had hoped to visit your aging parents in their nursing home every week. You had hoped to be at their side when they died, holding their hand where you belong. You had hoped to be able to provide better, safer care for your patients. You had hoped to save more lives and see far fewer deaths. You had hoped that governmental leadership and scientists would have found a way to get back to normal by now. You had hoped to not have to learn a new normal. You had hoped to manage to get through life with less suffering. You had hoped to stay married, stay sober, stay healthy. You had hoped you wouldn't feel so alone. You had hoped to leave a better world for your children, one that was less cruel, more kind. The boulevard of broken dreams looks different for everyone, but it is important to remember that there is no hierarchy of suffering. Shame is a liar. So please stop shaming yourselves for experiencing real feelings of grief because your situation isn't as bad as other people's. Empathy is an infinite resource, beloved. In the story we heard this morning, 2 disciples walk on a road 3 days after the crucifixion. They are clearly traumatized by the events of the days prior. They had just watched the torture and the death of their friend and teacher by the perpetrators of empire. They are going over these events together, shocked and scared for their own lives. They had just been told by the women that Jesus' body was raised, but they didn't believe it. Jesus himself ends up walking beside them on the road, asking them questions, but they don't recognize him. Maybe their eyes are too clouded with tears. Maybe their brains are so fixated on what they thought the kingdom of heaven might look like that they didn't recognize God's presence when it's right in front of them, walking right beside them. "What are you guys talking about?" Jesus asked them. "Haven't you read the news?" they say. "Haven't you seen your Twitter feed? People are dying. The unemployment offices have lines out the door. Our medical professionals still don't have enough PPE. We are scared. We are scared for our parents and grandparents. We are sad for our children who are missing out on the plans we had made for their lives. What's worse is that some people care more about the economy than human lives." Is it possible, Jesus asked them, that this suffering had to happen on the way to glory? "Sure, the women told us that he rose out of the grave that day," the disciples said, "and we saw that the tomb was empty with our own eyes," they said. "First the pain and then the rising, he had told us. But we are rational human beings and we do not believe it." Jesus calls them foolish and slow of heart, which admittedly isn't the most empathic response for the Prince of Peace. They invite him to stay anyway. They still don't recognize him, but they invite a stranger to stay with them overnight. They say, "It's getting dark. You'll be safe with us." Perhaps deep in their knowing, they remember that's what God would have had them do. Deep in their knowing, they remember these words, "For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in." What you do for the least of these, you do for me. And then the stranger takes bread and blesses it and breaks it and offers it to them. And all at once, they know who it is. They know it was him all along. They invited love in, and God was present. Then their eyes opened, the scripture says. Were not our hearts burning within us when he spoke to us, they ask, shaming themselves for not recognizing him. How could we not feel his presence? How could we not recognize his face? He was there. He was there all along. Fellow travelers on the road, on the had-hoped road, on the boulevard of broken dreams, you are not alone. So first, don't shame yourselves for not being able to find God on the road you are walking right now. You are only human and doing the best that you can. And then, open your eyes. Remember that God is always found in the strangers who walk with you. Especially as it gets darker, invite love to stay. Open your eyes. You are on the same road as the people of Italy and the people of South Korea and the people of Australia and the people of Zimbabwe and the people of Las Vegas and Atlanta and Boston. They are all just pieces of you who you do not yet know. Invite love to stay. Open your eyes. You are on the same road as the people who disagree with you. The dichotomy between those who want to open the economy and the people who care about public health is false. We are capable of caring about multiple things all at the same time. You can resist every single force that seeks to divide us. We are in this together. Invite love to stay. Grieve all that we have lost, yes, and then gently open your eyes and see what we have gained. A new perspective on inequity, a new commitment to the collective. There is no us and them, there is only us. Invite love to stay. When you open your eyes, you can see a new vision for salvation. Pave over the boulevard of broken dreams to a new destination. Invite love to stay, and then rise up and walk. God still has more to do with us, so rise. Our current predicament doesn't exempt us from our purpose, so rise. A broken heart still beats, so rise. We are not alone, so rise. The people united in God's love can never be defeated, so rise. Hell is here on this earth, and every last person deserves to be pulled up out of it, so reach out your hand and rise. Heaven is here on this earth too, so don't just sit there waiting for it to manifest itself. Rise. The power of love will overcome the love of power, so rise. Healed people heal people, so rise. When hopeless people start hoping, empire is destroyed, so rise. Beloved, as you walk the had-hoped road to an unknown destination, do not fail to notice your hearts burning inside of you. Reclaim your hope. When it is getting dark, ask love to stay. Invite love in and follow God down the boulevard of all that is broken to a world made whole again. It's not the end. If love hasn't won yet, it's not the end. Amen.
Who am I that the Lord of all the earth would care to know my name, would care to feel my hurts? Who am I that the bright and morning star choose to light the way for my ever-wandering heart? Not because of who I am, but because of what you've done. Not because of what I've done, but because of who you are. I am a flower quickly fading, here today and gone tomorrow, a wave tossed in the ocean, a vapor in the wind. Still you hear me when I'm calling. Lord, you catch me when I'm falling, and you've told me who I am. I am yours. Who am I that the eyes that see my sin would look on me with love and watch me rise again? Who am I that the voice that calmed the sea would call out through the rain and calm the storm in me? Not because of who I am, but because of what you've done. Not because of what I've done, but because of who you are. I am a flower quickly fading, here today and gone tomorrow, a wave tossed in the ocean, a vapor in the wind. Still you hear me when I'm calling. Lord, you catch me when I'm falling, and you've told me who I am. I am yours. I am a flower quickly fading, here today and gone tomorrow, a wave tossed in the ocean, a vapor in the wind. Still you hear me calling when I'm calling. Lord, you catch me when I'm falling, and you've told me who I am. I am yours. I am yours. I am yours.
We take this time in our worship service to lift up the prayers of our people. If you have a prayer that you would like this community to pray for you, please won't you put it in the comments section, and we will pray for you online together, and we will also pray for you all week. Please do that now, and hear now, God, the prayers of your people. please pray with me. Saving God, like Israel before us, we are filled with joy when you deliver us from bondage, and we praise you when you vanquish our foes. Yet we are less trusting when you lead us into the desert, the long way, the unknown path, the had-hoped road, the journey of trial, trust, and refining. Forgive us for questioning the path you have chosen for us. Forgive our complaining along the way. Forgive the times we've stumbled when the journey was long and hard. Deliver us from our Egypts. Lead us on our unexpected journeys. Sustain us in our deserts. Bring us to our promised lands. Loving God, if we are ill, strengthen us. If we are tired, fortify our spirits. If we are anxious, help us to consider the lilies of the field and the birds of the air and the babies that are born and the daffodils that are poking up out of the ground. We trust in love and love alone. Help us also to trust the broken hearts burning inside us, reminding us that you are here. You are here. You are here. In the silence now, we lift up our prayers to you. We pray all this in the sure knowledge that love is here from now until forevermore. Amen.
Although we are unable to be together physically as a congregation right now due to this COVID pandemic, First Church continues to support programs within the church and out in the community. Especially during these times, the needs are great. Please use the website fcsterling.org/donate, which I believe is pinned to your comments section online, to make your donation. Your generosity allows First Church to continue all of its good works.
Letting go of every single dream, I lay each one down at your feet. Every moment of my wandering never changes what you see. I try to win this war, I confess. My hands are weary, I need your rest. Mighty warrior, king of the fight. No matter what I face, you're by my side. When you don't move the mountains, I'm needing you to move. When you don't part the waters, I wish I could walk through. When you don't give the answers as I cry out to you, I will trust, I will trust, I will trust in you. Truth is, you know what tomorrow brings. There's not a day ahead you have not seen. So in all things, be my life and
We are grateful for your generous donations and especially grateful for all of you. May we always use them to continue creating heaven on earth.
Amen.
Amen.
Fellowship, what a joy divine, leaning on the everlasting arms. What a blessedness, what a peace is mine, leaning on the everlasting arms. Leaning, safe and secure from all alarms. Leaning on the everlasting arms. Oh, how sweet to walk in this pilgrim way, leaning on the everlasting arms. Oh, how bright the path grows from day to day, leaning on the everlasting arms. Leaning, safe and secure from all alarms. Leaning on the everlasting arms. What have I to dread? What have I to fear? Leaning on the everlasting arms. I have blessed peace with my Lord so near. Leaning on the everlasting arms. Leaning, safe and secure from all alarms. Leaning on the everlasting arms.
May God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May God give you the grace never to sell yourself short, the grace to risk something big for something good, the grace to know that the world is now too small for anything but truth and too dangerous for anything but love. So may God take your mind and think through it. May God take your eyes and see through them. May God take your lips and speak through them. And may God take your hearts and set them on fire. Amen.
Amen.